Horrible conditions in some zoos in this country that some people say they should be closed down immediately. In fact, the people who did say that is the animal conservation group Born Free. Now, they invited us to join them as they investigated 3 zoos that they'd received complaints about. Sue Saville is at one of those zoos this morning. Morning to you, Sue.
Morning, Fiona. That's a monkey, by the way.
A capuchin monkey. Isn't
Indeed,
it?
I think.
Yeah.
Well spotted.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got a point. This is a very hotly contested argument, of course. Do we need zoos at all? What's their role? Those who support zoos will say they have a very important role in conservation and in education. But Born Free, through their zoo check organisation, say actually many of the animals are not being kept in the right conditions, and they do keep an eye whether they go announced, saying that they are from Born Free, or they go unannounced as tourists. As you're saying there, they invited GMTV in with a normal camcorder, the sort of thing that a tourist might take into a zoo to film. And they came here to Basildon Zoo, which is one of the zoos that they criticised, but they also went to Southport Zoo and to Flamingo Land in North Yorkshire. Well, in a moment, we're going to be speaking to the owner of the zoo here, Yolanda Surkuf. But first, take a look at the report that was compiled by Born Free about the zoos that they found and the criticisms they made. Take a look at this.
Basildon Zoo is on the outskirts of the Essex town. Let's hope that the state of the entrance isn't a sign of what lies inside. Sadly, it is. Things are generally shabby, and it's not a good sign that the animals themselves are well looked after. It's not just the animals' living conditions that are important, so is public safety. Fences should be secure, but a second barrier between the animals and the public is really what's needed. Still, it's good to see that the animals aren't teased. There aren't enough staff patrolling to stop these school kids spitting at the guanacos, which are housed right next to the public toilets. The cages are often old and too small, and as for the argument that zoos are educational, nearly all the name signs are missing. The owner later claimed that they've been pinched by wild birds. Old wood should be regularly replaced, especially when the animals are left to eat excrement off it. Here's the owner, who claims all her animals are happy and content. Many of the creatures in her care, however, show signs of boredom and abnormal behaviour. To me, this monkey is clearly disturbed, and there's little value in keeping it behind bars. This Arctic fox doesn't look in good condition. Water and food shouldn't be kept on the floor because of contamination. The gate isn't locked properly, and that's a danger. Here at Southport Zoo, things are a little better. It must be terribly hot inside this box, and the young animal's going frantic, throwing itself around. It should at the moment be with its parents. I'd like to know why this is acceptable, which I don't believe it is. This chimp is clearly disturbed. And these snow leopards are in far from ideal conditions. The zoo is right next to a theme park, and this roller coaster goes past every 4 minutes. Once again, there aren't enough staff to stop the animals being teased. Flamingo Land is near Pickering in Yorkshire, and the zoo is part of a huge entertainment complex. But the most distressing feature, I think, of this is that the animal is closed out of its indoor quarters on a cold and what could soon be a wet day. It should have access, in my opinion, to the warm area inside, and it certainly doesn't look very happy. These polar bears are perhaps the saddest sight yet. They're kept in a barren, concrete enclosure with nothing to do, and the pool is far too small for them to swim in. In my opinion, the days of zoos like these are numbered. For the sake of the animals, something has got to be done.
Oh dear, pathetic sight there. In a moment, we'll be talking to the owner of one of those zoos we illustrated in that film. That's a zoo in Basildon. But first, David Spratt of Born Free, who you saw in that film, is in our Plymouth studio this morning. Morning to you, David.
Good morning, Fiona.
Well, people seeing that this morning can't fail to be shocked and saddened. What were your feelings?
Well, obviously the same. It is a very sad sight. We're getting reports continuously of these sort of conditions in zoos. We can't see them all, and we rely on people to call us or write to us and let us know, but it is very sad.
Nevertheless, people, and I'm sure over the Easter holiday, a lot of people have been to zoos. People still want to go to zoos. After all, that's the only place they can see animals like snow leopards and tigers, monkeys, the animals that we saw in that film. You're never going to get rid of zoos altogether, are you?
It's unlikely that it will happen in my lifetime. There is new legislation now that will demand that where animals are kept in captivity, then their psychological, their social and their physical needs are well catered for. And I think it will be a case of where this can't be provided, and these animals shouldn't be kept in such conditions.
Is there anything you can do, David? Because I know Born Free rescue animals from all over the world, but what can you do about zoos in this country? As I say, we saw some pathetic sights then, and disturbed animals, thin animals, animals with bits of their tails and things that have just disappeared.
What can we do?
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, I think it comes down to what the public want to do. We always say to people, if you don't like zoos, then if you go to them, let us know what you see. But it will come down to public pressure at the end of the day, and we always say, please, please, if you don't like them, and if you see things that disturb you, please don't visit zoos. That's the only thing that will make a difference at the end of the day.
There are some good zoos, though, aren't there, David? I mean, London Zoo, for example.
I would say that if you've travelled Europe, then you could go to almost any zoo and find something that disturbs you. There are some zoos that would rate themselves better than others, but I think even the best of zoos will have something in there that would disturb someone.
And you showed us 3 in that film. I mean, are they the worst of what we've got to offer in this country?
They were 3 that we chose because of the number of letters and phone calls we've had from concerned people. The ones that we get most information about, I would say, and that's why we decided to go to those.
Yeah. OK, David, well, thanks for joining us this morning. Thanks for carrying out that investigation on behalf of the people that wrote to you. One of the zoos featured, of course, was Basildon Zoo. Listening to what David had to say is the owner of that zoo, Yolanda Sarkouf. She is with Sue Saville, live from Basildon now. Morning to you, Sue, again.
Yes, that's right, Fiona. Well, Yolanda was able to hear some of those points, but unfortunately not see them all quite as clearly as we'd hoped. But Yolanda, the points there that were made in the film were some criticisms here, including things like the signposts weren't clear on many of the cages here, which means that the educational value was missing. What do you say to that sort of criticism?
Well, no, it's quite true. Some of the cages haven't got information. Actually, it's the wild birds that take them down. We're constantly replacing them. I have to say that Born Free do talk a lot of rubbish. I mean, they actually approve our zoo of taking in rescued animals. So why they come here and say that, you know, they just come in unannounced instead of just coming in and asking if there are any criticisms, come and talk to us. Let us see what they've got to say.
And what about some of the wider criticisms about some, not just here at your zoo, but at others as well, that many of the enclosures are actually too small for the animals?
I can't speak about other zoos. I can only say what happens here. But don't forget, all our zoos are licensed, and the criteria is what the government give us by the inspection board, the licensing inspection board. So we all have to abide by the licensing measurements, sizes. Otherwise, we can't run. We don't get a licence. That's not only this zoo; it's all the zoos in England.
One of the points that was made in the little film from Born Free there was that as they approached the place, it looked scruffy. And then when they get inside, some of the wood needs replacing. Some of the fences weren't properly strapped down. Why can't those things be attended to?
Well, they are being attended to. I mean, all zoos, again, have got new things and old things that need to be done. We can't fix everything on one day. Something gets done quicker than others. The most important things get done first.
And what about the point about behavioural aspects? Of course, when people come to see animals, they're prowling around. Sometimes they look, in the film, he said that his view was that they appear to be having strange behaviour, perhaps even neurotic behaviour. Do you accept that?
No, I don't. No. Our animals here, if they see their keepers, they will get up and look for their keepers to see what's going on. I mean, a domestic dog will get up and get all excited when it's going to be fed, exactly the same as our animals.
Well, Yolanda, thanks very much. Good of you to make those points. And so there we go. That's the defence here from Basildon, singled out in that report, Fiona. They say that they make the priority looking after the animals and not so much the other things around here, making sure that perhaps the fences may need attending. Those, they say, the second priority. The first priority, Yolanda was telling me, is the animals. That's the view from here.
Yeah, that is the view from there, Sue. That was just one of the zoos featured. Sue Saville live from Basildon there. We did, of course, talk about 2 other zoos in David Spratt's film. Both of them responded to the specific points that we raised. The owners of Southport Zoo said the baby gibbon's father broke its arm, which meant it then had to be hand-reared. About 2 hours after you filmed, the baby was moved from the glass-fronted cage to a larger enclosure. The monkey you filmed is very old and they don't look their best at that age. Our animals have never been stressed by the little amount of noise that comes from the fun fair. A vet inspects all our animals every month. We are animal lovers, that's what Yolanda said too, and won't do anything that's detrimental to them. We are members of the Zoo Federation and the European Association of Zoos. The management at Flamingo Lands near Moulton in North Yorkshire vehemently denied any wrongdoing at their zoo. They said that the welfare of their animals is of the utmost importance and that they do all they can to ensure the creatures are content and well cared for. They believe that all their animals are well and happy. And in a statement responding directly to the points raised in Born Free's film, Flamingoland said, "If a hatch was closed in a monkey enclosure, it would have been because the interior was being cleaned." The two polar bears have been with us for 25 years, and in that time they've born 4 cubs. And as the adage goes, they say it's only happy animals that breed. Well, there we are. That's the opinion of the 3 zoos that we featured in that film. Your opinion might differ from theirs. Do give us a call if it does. The time now is 11 minutes to 8. Amy.
And across the country, you're waking up to GMTV. A very good morning to you. Now a man with more sides to him than a 50p piece. He's been chosen to present one of the year's most glittering showbiz events, the BAFTAs, next Sunday. Who is it? Who else but Rory Bremner?
So I'm just going to complain about the conditions in here. We're fed terrible jokes.
Yes.
We do every day, but they don't listen to us.
I know.
You've been prodding up and down that couch from end to end there. And
Is it possible to wear anything that doesn't clash with this couch? I was just going to work it out. I thought, should I wear the tartan today? Yeah, so this week, yeah, BAFTA this weekend.
there's an
Academy
awful
Awards.
lot of these award ceremonies, isn't
Well,
there?
I know people say that, but it's funny. I did one the other day. It was just for the Mobile Phone Salesman of the Year. It was Mobile Phone Salesman of the Year, and that's the only time I've ever been in a room where 600 men were arguing about who had the smallest one. And then, this year, I mean, there are. You must host a few of these things, don't you?
Yeah, never receive any awards. Hosted a few,
Oh,
but
well.
We
never
announced
received.
the BAFTA nominations, actually, didn't we?
Oh yes,
You've
forgot about
forgotten
that.
about
We did that. Yes.
One of the viewers are going to get a chance, I think, later in the week to vote with for the most popular
right.
film of the year. But now, I once said there was, I think it was the Carpet Layer of the Year. Well, that was my favourite one. It was great because 4 people, they were all sort of sitting around, about 500 people in a room, sort of sitting down, and they play the theme from Rocky like they always do, you know, da 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 da. And these 4 carpet layers came into the middle, and they laid a carpet in the middle of the room. And sort of, you know, bits of sweat were flying into the prawn cocktail and stuff like that. And they really were. And after about sort of half an hour, you looked up and they were still banging away and all the rest. And somebody was videoing them. Somebody's got a great video. You wonder sort of say, oh, I've got great. You still look at this Carpet Layer of the Year. You watch this. But what the British Academy have done, I mean, for years there was always a BAFTA ceremony for the best of film and television.
Yeah.
And they decided there are too many awards, so they've decided to split theirs in half and have 2 awards ceremonies instead. So there's the one for television, which is taking place next month, which is presented by Bob Markhouse. I can do that. So you'll probably have him on the sofa. Fiona looking so lovely there. Next month, but for this week, on Sunday, I've got to present the film awards. Now, I think they're bringing it more in line with the Oscars and things, because I think the idea was to make it a big film and an international thing, because I think they got international people over, and when they had all the television things, you know, they looked a bit confused when we got onto sort of best cookery programme.
Well, who's going to be there? What about the big stars? Who's going to be there?
Well, Sean Connery's going to be there. They've done quite well. Sean Connery, Julia Roberts, Robert Duvall, Placido Domingo. It's Calm Sunday. Did you know that? That's what it means. Placido means Domingo means
Sunday.
So I'll stick to that, Mr. Sunday.